the history and then make a quick question to one of the panelists.
All in 1 minute.
All in 1 minute.
Thank you.
We were in Naivasha trying to create the new constitution. And then we said that we were going to have 9 regions, 9 governors. 9 governors, we said they'll be too powerful, they'll be demigods. Then we said we'll have 18 regions. They said they'll still be too powerful. Then we said let's go to the old districts, which would be 47. Then they'll be too small, the governors. So let us create senators to protect them so that it is not the way the first president killed the devolution. So that's how we created the senators for the second time. And then when we brought them to agree what roles they were going to play, we said that we were the National Assembly. We said we don't want to create a house that is stronger than us. That's where the problem began. We said we did not want a house that has powers more than us. And that's when we said we will create a house like the one in Canada. We will create a house like the one in South Africa. In South Africa, it was the House of Tribes. In Canada, the House of Lords, the MPs who are elected, let's say from Nakuru here, they sit down and they nominate someone. So you are thinking of like in Nyeri, the MPs would nominate Professor Wangari Maathai. We even had the names. In Nakuru, they would nominate some, champions in Rift Valley, like the runners. And we were thinking they would meet only once in a year. So that only when there are big issues to advise the president shall we need the sitting. The Council of the Committee of Experts changed all this. They brought in an elected senator, and then they could not allocate duties to them, enough duties. But still the attitude that was there in National Assembly was that this is a house of all people, and it's not supposed to take away our legislative functions. So this is the history, and I would say more, but limited time. This is the history. Prof, I wanted to say one question. A suggestion, actually. Maybe I liked the presentation by Governor Sang. If, and I'm sending this to you, in terms of the Oversight Fund, would it make sense, and Senator Dula as well, instead of us fighting to get a big sum, why don't we target certain things? Look, we want to do oversight over roads, over building constructions, over procurement. We don't have the capacity because some of us are not trained in those areas of specialty. Why don't we say we are creating a fund that will be allocating this amount of money for the senators so that if they wish, they can recruit a procurement expert to give them an opinion that will be able to criticize or advise when there is a problem. We can recruit a professional engineer to tell us about the houses, if they are being done badly, or the roads, so that we are specific at what we are doing. And then maybe with that, we then say, let us have this amount of money per year. So that when we are talking to the people, they listen to us. And then, why should MPs have offices? Why should governors have offices? Why not also properly built offices like the way governors have a modern a building that will be replicated in 47 counties, so that we divide and go to the point, so that when we are asking, we want this oversight fund, we want to do this work this way, everybody understands us. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kinyua, I hear the past is starting to haunt us.
Thank you, Professor. Yes. Mine is an observation. When I listen to Senator Dulo, it seems to me, and in fact has been confirmed by Senator Mungatana here, it seems to me that Senate does not have any function. so to speak. Because when you're speaking, everything you have been fighting for from the word go, and since you are the encyclopedia of Senate, it seems nothing is provided for in the nation. It's like everything you fought for, you are fighting, including even the chamber itself. You didn't have chamber. So, and that's being confirmed here by what Senator Sang is saying, the governor. That's the reason why maybe there's no competition for these seats of Senate. That's why you have the turnout of Senate. It doesn't change as much. We come back, all of us, because there's no competition. MCS, they have a fund, that's why we have competition. Members of parliament, they have a fund, that's why we have competition. Maybe my recommendation, with a lot of humility, and the same thing has been confirmed here by Dr. Conrad. He's saying, even if you look at the ruling, that our mandate, the little mandate that we have, is even being reduced by the ruling that concerning the money bills. From where I sit, Professor, it seems the Senate is not required, and that is confirmed by my colleague here. The only thing we are supposed to do...
Point taken.
I want to finish. I want to finish. As I see it, the only thing that you're supposed to do is to park and go. Thank you.
Let me start this way, Senator Onyonga, then I'll come to you. Yeah, I still have, I have you, Maina. Yep, I will have you. But please, let's take 1 minute so that we are...
It will be. Okay. Thank you, Madam Senator Kamar. It's a pleasure to see you there. I actually want to say that I'm amongst the members of parliament who are refusing for the Senate not to be given money, because I used to sit in the budget committee.
Thank you for saying the truth.
The reason for that is that every time the senators were given responsibility to look for us as members of the budget committee, we would actually never meet. And as a result, we would just sit and say, let them go, we proceed with our business. So I wanted to ask first question, Madam, I think the members who are here. I wanted the, maybe Governor Sang to explain, what is this thing we call oversight? Mungatana raising questions about whether is there a possibility we are supposed to look at roads and whatnot. I think the problem with it is that there hasn't been clarity in what this definition of the word oversight is.
Thank you, Senator.
Number two, last one. What is the international best practice for senators? I mean, in the US, where we borrowed heavily, you find that senators are actually allocated money which they take to their counties. I don't see why we are having a contradiction with us in Kenya here. The governor should be given a certain percentage which is higher. The MPs are getting a percentage which is 2%. I don't see why senators cannot get 10%, 20% of funds which they take to their counties.
Thank you. Senator Maina and then Senator Ladama.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator, for the opportunity. I'm a first timer in Senate, and we are the ones who truly need the induction. So thank you very much to all the speakers who have given us a lot of tips on our starting point in Senate. My question is this. First, resources must follow function. Have you defined, has Senate defined its function? I know the function is very well defined in the Constitution. And based on the provisions that are available in the Constitution, we are then able to disaggregate and clearly map out what is that function of the Senate. Next issue is whether that function is important. If we are talking about that oversight function, is it an important function? In my view, it's a very important function because Kenyans are not fully satisfied with how the devolved funds have been utilized by the county government. So when it comes to whether that function of oversight is necessary or not necessary, to me, it's a very important function.
Thank you.
So why are Kenyans having a problem, or why are some parliamentarians having a problem with the Senate, the function of the Senate? Maybe we have not done proper definitions, both to Kenyans and to Parliament, on the importance of that oversight function. But the resources must follow the function. So what extent of oversight does Senate need to do over the default funds? So you have to look at what is the county government doing? Is it projects that it's doing? Is the oversight required for each and every project? So for me, I would say, let's go deeper, define that function, see the necessity at the county level, then now define the resource that is needed to support that function.
Thank you, Senator Ledama.
Thank you very
maybe
much.
I'll zigzag. Let me go this way and then come this way.
Let me start by...
I'll come back to you, Jeptum, at some point. Yeah.
Let me start by thanking the panelists because they have actually tackled things which are very crucial. And I'll follow up from where my sister has left it in terms of, and Governor Sang had actually mentioned this, in terms of the cost of functions. This is a discussion that we had with CRA, that county governments are yet, and even CRA is yet to determine how much it costs to be able to perform a particular function. So I think my comment on that specifically goes back to the governors. I think when you're submitting the budgets, let us move away from this one line item budget that the roads will cost 4 billion or whatever. Let us be specific in terms of each program. Let's do a narrative budget so that it is easier for even CRA to follow up and with your help to be able to know how much it actually costs. On the second issue, which I want to follow up from the gentleman who spoke from the outside, is on this issue of cash disbursements. Yes, the Senate passes CARA and then a cash disbursement schedule. The biggest problem, and this is what I want to beseech my colleagues, is that when the county governments are requesting money from the controller of budget, when the controller of budget, and these are the issues we're going to discuss on Thursday, when the controller of budget is seeking clarification on what that money is, there is where the delay comes in. So it is not that the controller of budget does not release money. It is a problem with the county government. So I want to ask, is it possible that when you are, as an officer who is in the county, sending us information on the budget, is it possible for you to be able to give a narrative of the money and submit that directly to the control of budget? And finally, this has got to go to the issue of oversight, which we have all been conversing on here. You remember that in the last Senate, we passed my bill, which is a county government accountability bill. It is my hope that this time around, the clerk who is here can republish that bill so that we can look for a co-sponsor in the National Assembly, because then that will be able to assist us, demystify the budget-making process, include the assemblies, and then we can be able to sort out this issue of on-source revenue. Because finally, and this is finally completely, on the issue that Senator Sang spoke about, the reason why we were so diligent in making sure that we follow everything is because the county assemblies were compromised. They were not able, first of all, a governor will not appear before a county assembly. It is the CCs who are appearing before the park committee of the county assembly. So by the time the Auditor General follows the Public Audit Act Section 35, when they come in, there's a lot of missing information. So I think when you go back to the Council of Governors, and I'm very happy that you know very well that the Senate is supposed to oversight on all funds. In fact, anyone who takes Section 109 of the Public Finance Management Act will be able to answer that. It's not quantum physics. So I think we can be able to help each other there. So the question to you is that, can you then be able to take that issue back to the Council of Governors so that we have a way of ensuring a fiduciary
Thank you, Senator. Senator Alwale.
Thank you. My brother, the issue you have raised about wasting time in the Committee of Public Accounts is real. I think there is room where the clerk can, if we supported him, receive your replies to the questions raised by the Auditor General. Then, because the clerk's office is well researched, they can synthesize
the replies you brought, and then raise points of interrogation that would then be tabled before the Public Accounts Committee so that it is systematic instead of wasting time on fueling of vehicles and washing cars and stuff.
Thank you.
I know that normally happens. My second point, which is also very short, is on the issue of oversight. Listening to the Senator of Kisii, my brother-in-law, Richard, we should move away from there. The truth is that CDF and GAF are not doing parliamentary work. They are actually performing executive roles. I don't think Senate should go into the route of attempting to perform executive roles. The moment you do that, all of you will be in competition with the governor. The governor will be having a bigger budget. He'll be having bigger projects. So you'll be whitewashed. All of you will lose. And I know you don't want to lose.
Thank you, Senator.
So, Madam Chair, what is on my mind? On my mind is that we should make the oversight fund, which hearing from other quarters, be operational, but also we don't become ourselves a problem this way. One, this house should be agreed that when the money comes, how is the money going to be shared? Are elected senators going to have access to the money in the same amount and in the same manner, like in the counties where we have nominated senators? Is a real problem. We have to agree. Two, do we give Nairobi County, for argument's sake, the same amount of money, Kakamega County, the same amount of money, huge as we are, like Isiolo, with due respect to my sister Dulo, to Isiolo and Lamu? And then, yeah, it is a house of equity. Those are the things we should agree on so that then we don't stall it once the executive then says, let's have the money. My final issue on that one is that we have some counties like Marsabit. It's huge. So if really the Senator of Marsabit is oversighting his governor, he might actually need money to fly around in a chopper, for example, unlike the Senator of Nairobi. And then finally, the issue of the number of constituencies within a county. Lamu, I'm going back to you. You have 2 constituencies, Kiambu, Kakamega, Nairobi have got 12 and 17. We have to agree so that we look neat instead of delaying the fund when it is operational.
Thank you, Senator Wambua.
Sorry for taking a lot of time.
Please let's try 1 minute so that we everybody's covered.
Mwalimu will try. We'll try 1 minute. If we don't make it, then you forgive us. Senator Mugatana and Senator Kenywa, you are completely out of order. And this is why. The Senate of the Republic of Kenya is a creature of the Constitution, just as the National Assembly is a creature of the Constitution. We don't need validation from the National Assembly to exist and perform our functions. Secondly, on this issue of oversight, Mwalimu, and you know, the bullfighter has just taken this debate where it ended. If you remember the last Senate, you remember Senator Kenywa, Kiika, and Senator Dulo and Ledama. And that is where we will all succeed or fail. The last session, the conversation was, to be specific, the conversation was, should Nairobi get the same amount of money as Lamu County? And on account of our inability to agree on the sharing of the initial 500 million, that's where the conversation ended. That's how we lost the fund. Madam Chair, my opinion on oversight is that let us not, at any one given time, try to be implementers of projects in our counties using that fund. the regulations for the use of that fund must be very, very, very clear on what it is that we are going to use. They are in place, they are not being used, Mr. Kenya, you know that for a fact. So, Madam Chair, lastly, I just want to say this. The failure or success of the Senate, this fourth Senate, will squarely lie on the shoulders of leadership. Speaker and Deputy Speaker and the entire leadership of the House, we must put the right foot forward and make sure that this Senate succeeds. I submit.
Senator Topiko and then Senator Ochenda. Then I'll come back. What's it?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
I think Senator Topiko is very new.
Yes, yes, I am. I'm brand new, Professor. Professor, thank you for the opportunity, and I will say this, and I'm surprised that some senators will doubt what the role of the Senate is, yet it is well defined in the Constitution that to protect and enhance and entrench devolution. I thought that's the work of the Senate, and it's all that they don't share with any other institution. And so I thought this is very clear. But Madam Professor, because I am one of the people coming from the National Assembly, joining the Senate, having done my 2 terms at the National Assembly, I want to say this about the oversight role, that the oversight role cuts across both houses. And because also in the National Assembly, this role has not been enabled, you know, it has not been given.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Mumo. And then behind Mumo is the senator from Nyeri. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair of the session, and the panelists for very good presentations. 2 points for me. One of the points that I pick, which I think I also had picked, given my interest in devolution, is the need for the country to strengthen the intergovernmental relations across board. And I think that's the one area 10 years on that we have not done well. And we are competing. The different actors on devolution are competing instead of collaborating and cooperating, as was intended by the Constitution. Governor Kihika, you proposed a dispute resolution committee between the 2 houses. Question to you and to the panelists, have we ever contemplated, beyond having the 2 speakers consult on which legislation should go to the Senate, have we ever contemplated setting up an interparliamentary liaison committee that can actually be the space for consultations around some of these issues before they go to court or before they bring a lot of dispute? So it's something I don't know whether we have. On the issue of the Senate fund, I would support Senator Halware's point that I hope we will not go the route of turning ourselves into an executive implementer. We should remain an oversight body rather than an implementer of projects. And I suggest that when that fund is set up, that we should focus on designing activities that can have the participation of all members of the Senate in carrying out the oversight activities. The reason I say this, we have nominated senators who are elected by political parties and they represent interest groups. And oftentimes, when you allocate a fund per elected member, you actually turn nominated members into props in the legislative houses instead of also giving them opportunity to interact with the electorate whom they represent. So we need to design this in a manner that will ensure that every senator is an equal senator and has equal opportunity to play their role. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator from Nyeri.
Thank you very much, Senator Professor Kamal. I first of all want to start by thanking the panelists for that very, very insightful presentation. Mine will be a very, very quick one. I think the solution as per how this oversight fund can be gotten using a purely mathematical formula. Having of engineering and project management, the law international, and that's the best practice, you can apportion a certain percentage of the total project cost to monitoring and evaluation, as is done in the CDF. You can also, without looking at the recurrent expenditure, and that would solve Mr. Senator Kharuare's insight that which county gets what, because it would be based on the amount of development expenditure that is allocated to each county, and that would be quite mathematical and fair to everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm starting to forget the names. I know Senator Tuya is the one at the end, Senator in front in Olwoba. Start with her, please.
County. I think on the issue of nominated senators, we are all equal and we are nominated under either agenda top-up or we are nominated under, people with disability or marginalized groups. But that is not why you're not nominated to go and look at issues of women. You're nominated to ensure that we either meet the 2/3, but your role there is the same as an elected senator. And one of the things that I have quickly learned is that there seems to be a difference between nominated and elected, to the extent that even when we are discussing now how the oversight fund is going to be distributed, you start wondering, I am from Kisii County, nominated from Kisii County. My county still has 9 constituencies. If at any one point there will be an oversight, as a nominated member from Kisii County, same as my elected member from Kisii County, we will be playing oversight of the same 9 constituencies. It will not be that I am going to do oversight of 15% because as a nominated senator, my oversight is 15%. I think that's one thing we really need to think through, because at the end of it all, we'll still be interacting with the electorate, and I think that we should, as nominated, and I'm speaking as nominated, be treated equally when it comes to matters of the floor of the House and our responsibilities.
Thank you very much, Senator Tuya.
Thank you very much, Professor.
There is no point of order. There is no point of order.
Thank you,
Not allowed. Please allow people to contribute. I'll come back.
Thank you very much, Professor. And thank you to our presenters. I'll be very brief. As a third-termer, and also coming from the former upper house, and now I'm in the upper house, quite frankly, listening to what the Honorable Senator Mungatana has said, the whole, one of the biggest problems we have in this country is that at the point where we make laws, we don't do it for posterity. At the time when the Honorable Mungatana was sitting on the table where matters of the mandate of the Senate was being discussed, he was, and I would imagine I'm just referring to him because he's the one who raised the issue. At that point, people were making laws for themselves, thinking they will always be in the National Assembly. It is selfish, and I want to believe and to be optimistic that we have come of age on matters devolution. And all these matters we are discussing, we might have an oversight fund as the Senate, but if we are still fighting about interpretation of clear definition of roles in the Constitution and agreeing to go by what the Constitution intended, then even the oversight fund will come and we will not deal with the issue as we ought to do. My point, Honorable Professor, isn't it a time where this country, we have goodwill, we have the Speaker of the National Assembly now, who has been a two-term senator. Here we have the Honorable Speaker, who has been a two-term governor. Can we do a social audit of the role of Senate? And by suggesting that we do a social audit, it is not that we don't know what the Senate ought to do, but just to bring the attention of the country to sit down and agree that this is the time to make our Senate operate. We make the necessary structures for posterity, not for me as Soipan thinking that I will remain in the Senate, so let's not make it better, but for this country, because we know what to do.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator at the far end, please introduce yourself now. I cannot even see your face. I've tried 90% to know names.
Now, the struggle was about to regulate the Senate, to make it functional, to make it get realized, to make it being ferret. And for the first time, I think we have a political goodwill. We are lucky that our Speaker is a two-term governor, has been a member of Parliament. In the National Assembly, we have a Speaker who has been in the Senate. So all these logistics are in place. We have a President who is very mindful of the entire representation, both the National Assembly and the Senate. And I would want to borrow from my senior, Bonnie Kalwale, that he has confessed that they got 500 million shillings that was not put into the prudent use because there were no agreements. Already you have heard that there are quite a number of contentious issues about members of the nominated senators and how the money is likely to be shared. I think this is the high time that as a house, we are supposed to put in place some legal mechanisms on how this money can be shared when the money is in them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that the senator from Lamu? From? Migori. I'll come back to you, Cheptumo. And please, let's have a minute because I can see we are ready to forego lunch, Mr. Speaker. This one is the most important topic of this conference. Once this is done, the others will flow. Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor. Mine are just two questions, two quick questions, and I'll direct them to specific members
If I
of the
don't
panel.
say your name, please say it for the sake of the members, because
Sure.
this is a time when we want to know one another.
My name is Senator Eddie Gisheru Okech from Migori County.
Thank you.
My first question is to Governor Senator Sang. I view Senate as a place whereby we will be measured by the contributions that we make, more than the benefits that we had. And one of the biggest contributions that we can make in the agenda of on-source revenue is actually having a more coercive and authoritative enhancement of physical capacity of counties. Because even if you look at what is happening now with on-source revenue, it is it's not coercive and it is not also authoritative to the extent that you have about 111 billion collected by counties that's even unbanked. So given your experience as a senator and now as a governor, Governor Sang, what do you see as the creative opportunities for senators to build coercive and authoritative enhancement of physical capacity for counties? The second question, very fast, if you allow me, goes directly to Senator Dulo. On this question of the role and the place of Senate. If you read the Standing Order number 22, the Standing Order establishes the political leadership of the Senate. And in my view, I think that the problem or the misunderstanding of the role and the place of the Senate in the Kenyan society today is a political question, not a constitutional question. So my question to you, Senator Dulo, is that is there a way we can be able to devise, through our leadership in the Senate, a political strategy that can be able to enhance political goodwill by the executive and by the members of the National Assembly to be able to entrench the role of the Senate in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Osotsi. Let it come forward here. And honorable senators, the next topic is very much related to this. And our conversation can continue because it's going to be a topic on devolution itself, understanding devolution. So please allow me to take Osotsi, come to Baringo, Senator Baringo, and then Beatrice.
Thank you.
Then we can move the other questions to Senator Kinyua's session because it's on all very close topics. Can we do it that way? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Soti Vihiga. Chair, I must confess that as one of the members coming from the National Assembly, I sat in the House Business Committee for 4 years. And I'm among the National Assembly members who really frustrated Senate. Alongside people like Duale, Mbadi, Junet. But I'm here. So I have a lot to share with you on how we are going to move forward as Senate. But then I must confess, listening to the speeches here, listening to Senator Mungatana and the others, clearly there are gaps in the Constitution on the role of Senate. Even with the basic reading of Article 96.2 alongside Article 95.3, you clearly see that the National Assembly has been given the powers to enact legislation, whereas the Senate has been given a participatory role in the process of lawmaking. So, yeah, it is there. Okay, the general aspect is that there are gaps in law.
Let's allow him to contribute. By Friday, everybody will be in the same page.
There are gaps in law.
Yeah.
And the question I keep on asking myself, what has stopped the Senate from initiating the process of amendments to the Constitution so that it gives us the strength to operate as a stronger house? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is BBI. Senator.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheptumo, and then Beatrice closes, then we'll come back.
Chair, Senator Wambua, and I think my colleague Soipan raised serious issues about the comments by Mungatana, I think Kinyua. I think what Mungatana was saying, he was giving us the background. How Senate is what it is today. Because the discussion in Naivasha was to make Senate better. But the same Mungatana again, who was doing that in National Assembly, he did exactly what they have done. So I don't think he was saying it in bad faith. He was trying to really give us the background and the history of where we are. Secondly, Chair, I also have to confess my sins. Because I was the chairman of delegated legislation 2013-2017. That is when the regulations on matter Senate on the fund came up. And being the chair, of course, and with proper instructions from my team and the entire National Assembly, we really frustrated that fund. And here I am today. I want to agree with the proposal that let us do law for posterity. And I will do that when I'm in this house. I'm now doing my 4th term. It is very important that we facilitate this house. But Chair, we are now doing 10 years of devolution. And this being my first retreat with this in this house, it is like we are beginning this house again. I'm actually worried because listening to the discussions, like actually we are beginning Senate in 2022, and we have been here. My question, not to maybe to Bosire and Sang, is these members who have been in this house, Can you tell us really, how have you undertaken oversight for 10 years? Practically. What have you been doing? Can you claim you have done oversight at all? And if the answer is yes, how have you done it? Because we want to know as new members.
Thank you.
Finally, Dr. Bosire, you spoke about whether we go to Treasury to follow up the allocated money for counties, and whether we have continued engagement with the Ministry of Devolution. I think these are the issues that we really want to interrogate now. The relevant institutions, ministries in charge, whether we can be able to do that and find out. And let me tell you, members, as I conclude, if you go to, and that's why we need to actually divine this house proper. Because today, and of course you know I am the Senator Baringo, and you know what has been happening about the way things have been done. Now, if you go to the public today, they will ask you what two people do. They know the work of the MCA, they know the work of the governor, and they know the work of the MP. They were asking me when I was campaigning, what is the role of a senator? That question is outside there. And it's like in this house again, we don't have the answer. Chair, we can have this discussed at a solution. Okay, asante.
By Friday. Senator Beatrice.
Senator Beatrice Ogola, delegate of Senator Moses Kajwang. Now, Dr. Conrad mentioned amongst the 6 points on the devolution ministry. The devolution ministry, as he says, and as we know, should ensure that we have regular meetings with the Senate. Ideally, the devolution ministry was also to facilitate an intergovernmental meeting where the ministries, the cabinet secretary was to quarterly chair a meeting where a CC from the ministry was to be to deputize the CS. In these quarterly meetings, issues that came up are supposed to be discussed at the summit. This rarely happens, and this should be enhanced. And lastly, on the 14 functions, we talk about funds should follow functions. The counties have a challenge where they are not able to get the best skills for the ministries that the governors have down there. The reason is that we have functions hidden in the ministries that should be down. Why don't we see a way